Roblox Bedwars YouTubers use a variety of different block tricks that, if you learn, can sometimes mean winning the match. So we looked at some block tricks from Tanqr, Minibloxia, Cubeinc, and I showed you my own special trick that almost always works for me. First up, we got a Tanqr block trap that I got from Cubeinc, and Cube does a good job in showing it in this clip over here, where he baits the opponent to attack him, then he builds over him, catching him off guard, and then blocking him up until he falls off the map. And I decided to demonstrate it as well by showing a few things that can happen. If your opponent decides to attack you, they can fall off like this. Sometimes you can also suffocate them like this, or you can block them off till they have no more space and just fall off the map. Next up, we got a trick that many of you probably know, which is the block in bed defense trick. In this clip from Tanqr, he took advantage of a poorly made bed defense by easily blocking himself, which then makes the opponent's job much harder because in order to reach you, they have to break the blocks first, buying you enough time to break their bed. So I demonstrated the situations that can happen where if your opponents have a big bed defense or they have like a square as their bed defense, you can first kill them like I did over here, then quickly block yourself in. It's also more easier if you do it in first person. Then start breaking their bed, and even when they respawn, they still can't reach you fast enough, allowing an easy bed break and potentially another free kill. Now here's a real match example where I used this trick. So I was fighting a guy and I successfully killed him, but he still had a bed, and instead of trying to break it outside, I decided that since his bed defense is pretty big, why not take this as an opportunity to block in. I then was able to do it, and I reached his bed and started to break it. But as I broke it, he actually broke a block and started to attack me. But since I had diamond armor and he didn't have a good sword, it bought me enough time to break his bed, and I took a risk and started trading shots back and forth between me and him, which ended off with me killing him and winning the match. Another funny block trap that you can do from Cube is setting up a trap similar to what Cube is showing, then simply sitting there and watch them fall off. This trick may not work all the time, but sometimes players assume that they will land on a bridge, especially if they're being chased or are in a hurry and they happen to be in first person. It's just really funny to watch happen. For this next block trick we got from Minibloxia is a way that you can use to put pressure on your opponent when they're trying to bow you. And it's to build up and build a 2 or 3 layer bridge, making it harder or almost impossible for your opponent to knock you off the map, while also putting pressure. And I demonstrated this in 2 different angles where if you attack your opponent from the left or right, you can build up and expand your bridge and be able to drop down, allowing for a decent combo and killing your opponent. Or you can do the same but from in front of your opponent while coming from the middle and absolutely destroying their hopes and dreams of winning the match. Just like here, where I basically build up to a decent height while I'm being shot by arrows, and I start to build a bridge that's 3 layers. So even though I didn't get shot by an arrow, I wasn't at risk of falling down, and I continued to bridge until I jumped down from height and destroyed my opponent. This trick is really effective and is recommended if your opponent has arrows and you have enough blocks and want to put pressure. It's now time for your bonus block trick, straight from me, and you won't believe how many times this trick actually saved me from losing. And it's basically unexpectedly placing a few blocks right before your opponent jumps onto a new platform, causing them to fall. And there are 2 ways to do it. The first way is the best way in my opinion, and it's to set up bridges like this where they're missing either 1 or 2 blocks. Then whenever you may need them and you're being chased, you can time your block placement based on how far your opponents are, like how I do over here, where I'm being attacked and I decided to run, and I lead the attacker to one of these bridges and place the blocks the moment they jump, causing them to fall into the void. Another way to do this, in case you have not already built incomplete bridges, is to build it while being chased and doing the exact same thing. But depending on how far your opponent is, you can either look at them before they cross, or you can never look behind in case you're aware of how close they are, and place down the blocks. This trick can catch almost any player off guard, especially if the player knows you're low and want to kill you badly. There's some examples of me using this trick in real matches. So for this real match clip, I was making my way towards a player who had better armor than me and a good sword. So at first, I tried to bait the player to cross over while I had blocks in my hand, but she didn't seem to fall for it. I then switched to my sword to trick her and make it look like I was gonna jump over and fight her, but I timed it perfectly so that when she jumped over, I placed blocks right away, causing her to fall in the void. Now for this next real match clip, instead of trying to bait the player to cross over to me Instead, I made the player chase me by appearing weak with only leather armor while they had iron. Then I already had the bridge set up, so all I had to do was time it right and place 3 blocks. And I ended up also placing a block to the left of me, which ended up making sure that the player will fall down. Now, the best way to really increase your chances of winning your games is to set up simple traps like this one that I just showed you, because you never know when you need to run from a dangerous situation and end up using it, which leads to this next clip where I was fighting a dude who caught me in a bad spot. I then started to run and I had already set up a bridge trap, but I placed the blocks too early and he didn't fall for it. But I didn't give up and I went over to the spot next to the generator and it built up. But to be honest, I wasn't expecting the guy to actually fall for it because I had my blocks out and everything, but he still did and I easily got rid of him. And for the last clip, all I did was build up enough to the point where I'm decently high up, but I then waited for him to cross over to my base. But the moment he did, I hit him, causing him to fall to his death. Another trick that I got from Minibloxia is what I call the low bed break. And how it works is you break their bed from below their bed, and it only works in maps where there's a big enough wall underneath the bed. Now you guys can get creative and find many ways you can do to perform this, but the way I do it is I build up like this, then I build to an angle where if I were to drop down, I can break the bed. Now I drop down and catch myself onto a block, build a block over me, then build one under me so that if they try to hit me off, I'll be stuck to the blocks under and above me like this. I then proceed to break the bed. Now it's risky against a smart opponent because all they have to do is suffocate you. So another way you can do it is by dropping down and building a protective wall to stop yourself from getting hit off the map and lowering the risk of suffocation, while I also easily break the bed. Now here are some examples of me doing these in real matches. A guy with leather armor came up to me trying to stop me from breaking his bed, but I was at a good angle. But I was also at a vulnerable spot, so he can easily break the block under me and I would fall into the void. So what I did was I saw his pickaxe moving and I assumed that he would try to break the block below me. So instead, I built another block under me just in case, allowing me to break his bed. So he then decided to break the block on top of me, but by that time, my job was done and all I had to do was get up and fight him. I hit him with a decent combo, sending him straight to the void. Guys, always make sure that if you're doing this and you see someone mining, make sure to build an extra block under you so that what happened to this guy doesn't happen to you. Now, I did the same thing I did last round on this unfortunate bacon hair, but instead of me having to deal with him, he tried to stop me but ended up falling into the void. For this other dude, he had armor and me and him were fighting. I killed him and I took it as an opportunity to do the trick, and I easily broke his bed because he stood there not knowing what to do. Unfortunately, after I broke his bed, he was able to hit me off the map, but my job was done because I successfully broke his bed. Now for this other dude, I set up the trick and I easily broke his bed, but I decided to wait for him to break the block so that I can easily get up and kill him before he has a chance to switch to his sword. I had a crazy combo on him and sent him straight to the void. Now this other guy thought he was being funny by dancing while we were on the bridge, but I ran past him. I got a few hits on his bed. I then built to get high ground and he backed off. I started running to him and he engaged in sword combat with me. I hit him with a pretty nice combo and I killed him. I went to set up the block trick, but this time I built a protection wall to the right of me, and he jumped attempting to hit me off, but his attempt failed and I easily broke his bed. Now for this last real match example, I didn't jump down far enough, so I had to build a little extra to be able to protect myself while I broke the bed. But a player broke the block above me and dropped down to attack me. But a smart thing I did was walk forward while swinging my sword, so that while I deal damage to him, I can also stick to the wall and not risk falling in the void, which actually ended up working and I took his bed successfully. I then saw 2 other players fighting, so I waited a little till they were decently low and I third-partied them, easily killing a guy, and the other guy tried to run but I caught up and he was as good as dead. If you like learning these tricks from me, then consider clicking on this video right over here.